Hello, Taekwondo Club, and welcome back. This is our third lesson, and like I said last week, today's lesson will be solely focused on self-defense. That being said, before we get into practicing self-defense releases and escapes, it's really important that we go over some basic information about what self-defense is, what that means, and some basic steps that will apply to any self-defense situation. So the first part of this video, I'm going to be talking a lot more than I normally would without going through any of the techniques. And then at the end of the video, I will demonstrate a few of the techniques with a partner so that you guys can see how those work and practice with a partner of your own. So without anything else, I will get into what self-defense is and what it isn't. All right, so let's start talking about what self-defense is and what it isn't. I've touched on this before in other videos about how self-defense is trying to keep yourself safe, which normally means getting away from a situation, and it's never continuing a fight. So let's do a little bit more of that discussion. What do you imagine when you hear the word self-defense? These days, it's really common when people think of that word to think about a cartoonish or something they might see in the movies or TV shows. For example, I know when I first hear the word, usually my mind goes to like some bad guy in an alleyway with a gun or a knife who attacks someone else for their money. Then maybe that person turns out to be a superhero, kicks the bad guy's butt and gets out of there. If you think of something similar when you hear the word self-defense, I want us to erase that image for now. I'm not saying that there aren't people in alleyways that will sometimes mug other people for their money, but self-defense can be a lot more situations than that. It can range from something as simple as looking both ways before you cross the street to something as dramatic as a kidnapping or a violent attack. That is a really broad area to go in between. So there are many different situations where you could use self-defense, which means we kind of need a guideline, right? If there's so many different ways you can use self-defense, we need some basic steps. So we're going to go over 5 basic steps of self-defense. All right, so step 1 of self-defense is to be aware. Know what's happening around you. If you're a fan of Harry Potter, there is a character in it you might be remembering named Mad-Eye Moody who always screams at his students, "Constant vigilance!" Now, I don't think you should be as paranoid as Mad-Eye Moody. However, it is good practice to know what's going on around you. Oftentimes, our brain will give our body signals when there is danger that tells us when we should leave a situation. If we're not focusing on what's happening around us, we might miss some of those important signals. Some things you might want to try to notice is where an exit in a new space is. So if you're somewhere new, knowing where the emergency exit is in case there's a fire or a dangerous situation that you have to escape. It's also important to notice who is around us. Is it a group of people we know and trust? Or is it a group of strangers who we don't know and who might be acting in a way that makes you uncomfortable? So it's important to know what's happening around us so we can leave if we need to. Which, leading into that, step 2 is leave. If there is a dangerous situation going on around you, the best thing you can do to keep yourself and others safe is to leave that situation. So a couple important things to know about that. If you're in a dangerous situation and you're with a group of people you trust, make sure you let them know that you are leaving and tell them where you are going. You don't want people that you trust staying in a dangerous situation because you left. They don't know where you are, and so they're staying there looking for you. If you leave, you need to tell people that you are there with, that you trust, that you are leaving. So for example, mom or dad, or a guardian, or a close friend. When you leave, try to find a space that is safe. Usually groups of large people is safe. Well-lit areas are safe, and stores and things like that where you can close a door are safe. So when you leave, try to find a safe area. There's no shame in running away from a fight. That is the best way to keep yourself safe. I think we talked about this earlier in a video where Jackie Chan, one of the most famous martial artists in the world, I know he's in a lot of movies and things like that, but he is a skilled martial artist. He was asked what he would do if somebody ran up to him with a knife. And he said he'd start running away, yelling and screaming. There's no shame in that. He's a very proficient martial artist, but he knows that the best way to keep himself safe is to get out of that situation. There's no point staying in a dangerous situation. If you are noticing danger around you, best thing to do is get out of there. Moving on to step 3. Step 3 is use your voice. Using your voice can mean several different things and be applied in several different ways. Using your voice might mean that you have left a dangerous situation, you have gotten to a safe location, and now you are going to use your voice to call the police or ask someone else to call the police and tell them that there is something dangerous going on and they need to come and assist. Using your voice might mean that while you are running away from a situation or leaving a dangerous situation, for example, maybe a fire or something like that, you are yelling and screaming at the people around you to let them know that there is danger. Another way to use your voice is, for an example, a more classic self-defense situation, or what people might think of when they hear self-defense. If there is a violent attacker coming for you, you might use your voice, I'm not going to say to scare them off, but to offset their intent a little bit. Most people that attack others don't want them to know that what they are doing. They don't want anyone else involved. They don't want anyone calling the police or coming to help that person. They kind of want to keep it secret normally. You using your voice, yelling and screaming for help, screaming, "I don't know you, leave me alone, get away from me," that attracts other people's attention. It might make an attacker nervous. It might make them second guess what they're doing because they don't want anyone else knowing what they are doing. It could even make them leave, and it could avoid the situation entirely. So using your voice is a really, really powerful tool. You can use it to call the police. You can use it to let other people know that there is danger, or you could use it to let people know that you are in danger. Our 4th step, before I introduce it, I want to kind of preface a little bit. This step is the step you use if those other 3 steps have failed. So if you weren't aware of what was happening around you, maybe you missed a dangerous person, maybe you aren't able to leave in time to escape this dangerous situation, maybe you are trapped somewhere and you can't even escape, and using your voice, screaming for help or calling the police isn't an option at that moment. This is the time where we would get physical. Now, this one really we're only going to talk about in the self-defense situation of somebody else is attacking you. Getting physical means that you are kicking, punching, biting, doing whatever you need to escape that situation. Getting physical is used to help you escape. We don't just get physical and attack somebody else who is attacking us because we want to hurt them. We are only using it to hurt them enough so that we can escape. So if you kick or punch that person and they let go, that means you start running if you can. This whole time you will also be still using your voice, still using step 3. So if you're kicking or punching someone who's grabbing you and trying to drag you somewhere else, or is attacking you, trying to kick and punch you, you would be screaming your head off, still using your voice, still trying to get attention from someone else, still trying to intimidate that person attacking you. So that is step 4, getting physical. We only do it if we absolutely have to. We don't want to get physical because it's more than likely, even a skilled person in self-defense, it's more than likely that if we get physical, we're going to get a little bit hurt ourselves. This is bound to happen. This is something we know might happen. So we want to avoid it as much as we can, and we want to try to use those first 3 steps before that, before we get physical. Our final step, step 5, is tell someone, talk to someone about what happened. Now, this one might be included in the use your voice. It might be included in that. It might be included in calling the police or screaming and yelling that you need help. It also might be included in what happens in the aftermath. So if you've escaped, you've called the police, you've gotten into a safe place, it might be calling mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, whoever it is that you love and trust, who needs to know that you were in a dangerous situation, but you got out of it. It might also be talking to someone like a therapist. It's very common to have negative feelings after a scary self-defense situation happens. So if you need to talk to a therapist or you need to just talk to someone that you love and trust, that is okay. Talk to someone, tell someone. These are uncommon situations. They do happen, but it's something that is traumatic. So don't be afraid to talk to someone if something dangerous happens to you and you're having negative feelings about it. All right, I just went over a lot of information, I know. So let's go ahead and review and give ourselves a couple examples to help fit this in our brain a little bit better. So our review, number 1, be aware of what's happening around you. Know if there's a dangerous situation. Be aware of who's around you, where you are, maybe even where the exits are. Know what's happening. 2, because you know what's happening, you have noticed a dangerous situation, you can leave. You don't want to stay in a dangerous situation if you don't have to. Get somewhere safe, let other people know that you might be that you are leaving, and kind of give them an idea of where you're going. Number 3, use your voice. This one might actually be the most important one. Whether that means that you have left a dangerous situation, you're somewhere safe now, you can call the police. That's using your voice. Whether that means running away from a dangerous situation and yelling and screaming that there's something bad going on, telling other people around you of the danger, that is also using your voice. Whether that means screaming at someone else that's attacking you, go away, leave me alone, I want nothing to do with you, that's using your voice. Using your voice, like I said, might be the most important part of self-defense. Number 4 is getting physical. Remember, this does not mean that I am just going all superhero out on a bad guy and attacking them to make them stop. I'm not attacking someone to make them stop. I'm attacking someone so that I can get away. If somebody is, say, dragging me somewhere I don't want to go, I'm only going to attack them long enough so that they let go and I can escape. I don't want to stay in a dangerous situation if I don't have to. Your best option is to get out of there and get somewhere safe while yelling and screaming for help. And finally, number 5, tell someone. This kind of fits in with using your voice, but think about this as I'm telling someone what happened so that I can get more help if I need it. So whether that means you have escaped somebody or you've escaped a situation, you're running back to your family or your group of friends, and you say, this happened and I don't know what to do next. Whether that means that you have successfully gotten away from somebody and now you need to call the police with a description of that person and a report of the incident. Or whether that means that all of that has already happened and you're still feeling maybe really anxious, or you might be feeling a lot of negative feelings about what happened, and telling a therapist or a trusted loved one how you are feeling so that you can continue to get help as you might need it. All of these steps are really important, so let's go over a couple examples of how we might use them. All right, so let's talk about a situation where you might use some of these self-defense steps. Let's think you are in a library or your kitchen or something like that, and you notice a big fire. You're aware of what's going on around you. You use the first step. You might look around for an exit or a fire extinguisher even. You don't see a fire extinguisher, you decide my best safety step right now is to get out and leave. Once you get out and leave, you might be yelling, hey, there's a fire, we need to get out of here. You've left, you've used your voice, you've used 3 of the first steps. Do you have to use the 4th step in that situation? Can you attack the fire? Can you use self-defense against the fire? No. So step 4, you don't need in this situation. But step 5, you would need. You would need to call the fire station. You would need to let them know, hey, I'm at this library, or hey, I'm at my house and there's a big fire. That would be using step 5 in that situation. So in that situation, you used 4 out of the 5 steps because you didn't need the 4th one. You used being aware of what's going on around you. You used using your voice to let other people know of the danger in that situation. You used escaping and leaving, and you used telling someone. Now let's think of a second example. Let's do this one. You are riding your bike and somebody comes up and grabs you. That's a scary situation. What would you do? Your first step, you didn't have time to be aware of what was going on around you. Maybe the person came up from behind. That's not something you should be mad at yourself at. We can't be aware 100% of the time. So first step, we weren't able to use. That person has grabbed you already, so it's going to be really hard for you to leave right now. So that's step 2, can't use it right now. But what about step 3? Can you start yelling and screaming in that situation about what's going on? Can you start screaming, hey, let me go! I don't know you. You're not my mom. You're not my dad. Get away from me. You can do that. Can you start wiggling and moving or elbowing this person to let go of you? Yes, you can do that. Can you do that so that they will let go? Absolutely. Keep moving until you have wiggled enough to let go. Keep screaming that whole time to get as much attention around you as you can. You can use step 3 and step 4 in this situation. Maybe that person then lets go of you because you've wiggled or you've hurt them in a way that has made them loosen up. You can now go back to step 2 and get out of there. Start running. Leave that situation. Get away. Now, maybe you've gotten away to somewhere safe. You've gotten to someone that you trust, and now you have to use step 5. You need to tell them what happened. You need to call the police, or you need to say, I don't know what to do next. What do I do? And then maybe that person will help you, or maybe you can brainstorm together about what to do next. So in that situation, you weren't able to use the first couple of steps, but you were able to go straight into the other steps and then come back to the first couple of steps to help yourself escape. That's the way these steps work. They're not always going to be step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They might be step 4, step 2, step 3, step 1, and then finally step 5. They can be in any order, whatever order you need to keep yourself safe. All right, I know I've gone over a lot of information, so like I said at the beginning of the video, we are going to learn some basic escapes, some basic wrist releases and basic wrist escapes, and we're going to go through those and talk about how some of the steps that we just learned can apply to those too. All right, so now I have a partner. This is my husband, by the way, and we're going to go over a proper wrist escape. Now, there are many, many different ways to do wrist escapes. I'm going to go over the one super basic one, and then maybe we can build off of that later. So he's going to grab my wrist. I'm going to show you how to do this correctly once, and then I'm going to go through a few things to do to watch out for and avoid doing when you're escaping. So number 1 is to cause a distraction. This distraction, some people tell you to do a foot stomp. That doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if you live in cold climates where people wear boots. So instead of doing a foot stomp, I would say if you're able to, do a kick or a low section stomp right at his knee. People don't like their knees getting hurt very much, so that's going to make him loosen up. Number 2, as I do that, I'm going to open up my fingers really wide, spread them apart as much as I can. I would encourage you to practice this part with a partner and have them practice holding your wrist really, really hard and opening your hands back and forth with each other, taking turns holding the wrist and feeling the difference. If he's holding my wrist really hard, you can hold harder. And I do this, he's going to feel a lot more tension in my wrist, and it's going to make my escape a lot more powerful. There's a big difference between wimpy fingers and alert fingers. So after that, I'm going to keep my elbow close into my body. I'm going to bring my wrist up, going against his thumb. That's the weakest part of his fist. And I'm going to step back with my safety fence up, and then I'm going to be starting to run away. So remember we talked about that safety fence in video 1. Safety fence, my hands are open. That means get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you. There's a big difference between get away from me and fist, which means come at me. This means go away. I am not the aggressor in this situation. This means come at me, bro. We don't want to do that. So to go over this again, he's going to grab my wrist. I'm going to do a low section kick around his knee or shin area if I have time. I'm going to open my wrist up really wide as I do that, and I'm going to bring my arm up, stepping back. 2 things to avoid while you are doing this. Number 1 is pulling back. If I'm doing this and I'm pulling really, really hard and he's holding on to me really, really hard, if he lets go, I have a chance of falling down, which puts me in a dangerous situation because I'm on the ground. Now he has the bigger advantage against me. Another thing I'm going to avoid doing is straightening my arm or pulling my arm so I get more distance from him. Think about lifting up a heavy object. Do you lift up a heavy object with your arms out straight like this? Or do you bring it close into your body like this? You bring it close into your body. You are a lot more stronger like this than like this. So bring your elbow close into your body and then lift your hand up against that weak little thumb. So all together, I'm going to use my voice this time. I'm not going to scream as loud as I can because I don't want to freak out my neighbors, but I am going to do it all together. Hey, get away from me! I don't know you! That is the basic wrist release. And for future videos, after you've practiced that a few times, we're going to go over some other ways to do it because I myself know at least a dozen different ways to do it that can go into a bunch of different situations. So go ahead and find a trusted partner and practice that a few times. Do not actually hit their knee. Do not punch them. Do not pull back and accidentally hit your head as you're falling. Do it just like I did. Pretend kick at the knee, open up your wrist really wide, bring it up, away from the thumb as you're stepping back, safety fence up, pretend to run away. All right, I hope you go over this video a few times and review if you need to. Otherwise, I will see you all next week where we will start bringing a lot more of the things we know together. All right, thank you, bye.